Alrighty. I would like to declare to the viewing public I am wearing underwear. Oh geez, this video's off to a good start. There's the star of the show. I had a bit of a funny incident before. There's another cat that I heard a carry on, like somebody had their throat ripped out, and this lovely little character here was having a fight with another cat that's completely black. It assumed that I was not awake at 2:30 in the morning, and in fact I was, and I come out and there it was. Now tonight I was on the toilet for, oh hell, only about 5 minutes. Come in and it comes running out of the house and jumping over some buckets of wood and flying off because, I left the door open, and cats tend to like that sort of thing. She was eating the biscuits I put out for Black Kitty about, 10 minutes earlier. And then I went and had a shower just then, and I've only just got out of the shower, probably 5 minutes, and lo and behold, I hear all this meowing going on, and I thought, now, is this Black Kitty or not? Because I can pick my cat's meow, but it didn't really sound like it. It was more that ow, 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 sort of grumpy meow. I opened the door with me headlamp, and I had my headlamp in my hand, and bada bing, sitting on top of the little battery box that has the battery from the cardboard house. It runs off a little 20-watt solar panel that I basically more or less never use. Black Kitty likes to sit on that box, and well, lo and behold, the black cat's sitting in the exact same spot. And it's just there looking at me, these bright green eyes, and yeah, so I just talked to it for a minute and then it took off. But no, it's not one of her siblings, I can guarantee you that. Anyway, we had a very intriguing day today, and I went up to the sewing machine mechanic. Well, it appears this bit of a story behind this device, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this machine. I never realised it, but with a sewing machine, every time you're using them, you always turn, well, the sewing machine's on that side, so you always turn that way. You always spin it as though the top is coming towards you, whereas you spin it as though the top is going away from you with an overlocker. So it doesn't matter what side, whether you work on the sewing machine from this side or the overlocker, or technically it's a 2-thread overlocker, slash serger. From this side, you always end up spinning it that way. Boom, boom. I don't know if you can see, it might be a little bit too bright. But yeah, it's got an arrow up there embedded into the casting. So anyway, we had a few issues with this thing switching over, and I had this slipping. Well, it turns out the belt that goes to the motor, not surprisingly, like a lot of old belts, including Mr. Wortham here, Wortham, how the hell you say it, they get a bit slack in their old age, having been built in 1984, 85, not sure, probably 86, 85 something, who knows, 89 for the Singer. Yes, I got some bobbins for it. They get a bit slack in their old age, and the long and short of it is that all he had to do was adjust the tension, which often enough means actually loosening. Oh, there goes the cat again. I don't know if you can hear it. Let's go see if we can see it. Loosening the bolts that hold the motor and moving it down, and that fixed one issue with that thing. Let's see if we can see this little putty tat. Putty? She was just sitting over there. You can probably see, there you go, the light reflecting. It's alright, Putty. Oh no, we bailed again. Come on, Black Kitty, come inside. Unless you want to have another fight or something. I'll do whatever you want then. Anyway, back to the story. This one, why this started moving initially, it seems as though... Ooh, might have a little bit of Sail Machine oil on that. It seems as though when I first ran the sewing machine side of this, it was sort of firm enough, but it was continuing to try and move this and trying to get the overlocker to work, which all this stuff was very unoiled, and I oiled a bit of the sewing machine side, but I didn't know how to get into the overlocker side, and you actually got to come in from underneath and take a panel out from underneath. You get rid of the Lazy Susan thing. That's this doover here, which makes it spin. That's like a little plate thing that... Now there's a panel beside that one. You take the Lazy Susan off, I think, first, and then there's another panel beside that underneath to get into your overlocker part. And because that was jammed and I was trying to move it all, this started to slip. Now most machines, like, well, say for instance this Singer here, you spin this, which, that's the side you work on, so you spin towards yourself and the top comes towards yourself. That will be running on a direct shaft that runs all the bloody works and jerks and your needle business and all the other bits and bobs. And yeah, so there'll be there's a big shaft that runs sort of from this, and this is generally with most machines. I'm just generalising here, not these bizarre combination ones, but almost all machines that are just straight sewing machines will have a shaft running from this across, and then there'll be a motor in the base which will go up to this via a belt. This one's a little bit different. It's almost like as though this is attached to a whole series of clutch plates, and there's a belt, and there's actually a cog that I couldn't see, but he assures me is in there, and it was fairly deep inside, that is basically two cones, like it's a cone and a cone. So it's almost like bump, bump, and the same again. So it's like two cones end to end. And that has to slip back and forwards either way to throw into gear either the sewn side or the overlocker side / serger side. The trouble is the little mechanism that allowed that to move was really quite a temperamental shitstorm, so they only produced, it was either 3 or 4 different types of these combination machines, and they just had such a run of shit trying to get these blasted changeover cog to be reliable and, a good workable system that they essentially just gave up. And, plus the cost of these was frickin' 8 to 10 weeks wages, probably more like 10 weeks wages. In today's terms, it might be 8 to 10,000 Australian dollars for one of these when it was new. They were huge cost. They had a lot of issues switching over with this cone-shaped cog. Now, there's a bit more of a story to this. There's clutch plates in there. First of all, some of the grease has gone dry and gone hard. So grease goes from being a lubricant to being almost a hard, well, quite literally a hard substance. Now you have a series of plastic plates in here. And I knew there was something going on with that. And it's all to do with your changeover between your sides. Now he stopped looking at it, just looking at it, and started to think about the logics of building it and realised there's not, like a 2-plate setup, one side for running the sewing and the other side for running the overlocker / serger. It's actually 3-plate. And so he's looking at all these little fingers, and you have one set of fingers that'll, you know, drop in or lift up on the basis of what this switch is turned to, which is, you know, serger, or you flick it down there and it changes to your sewing. And he was trying to work out why there was 3, not just 2, because one finger will, as you change this, one finger goes and holds one set of clutch plates, and then as you turn it back, one finger lifts out and another one goes in. But then there was a third pair that would come down. So you got one single, another single, and then a pair. And this pair would keep engaging, and he works out, now what's pushing that? And why the hell have we got 3 different drives on a machine that only has 1, 2 sides? And then I said, I know what it is. It's the bobbin winder. So when the bobbin winder goes to wind your bobbins up, it disengages both sides. Now you wouldn't believe it, this little bugger of a bobbin winder touches this pair that lifts up. This pair that lifts up has a little tab, and as you move this bit, which I'm not going to, it will flick up that tab or lower that tab. That pair that's attached to the tab is also spring-loaded to stay down, to actually lock up both sides at all times until this thing sits in place. Well, wouldn't you know it, somehow or another, who knows, whether it's a loose blimmin' circlip in here or a bit of old age or fair bit of use over the time or someone having bent it, the thing wasn't touching the bloody tab and it was causing us all sorts of shit. We bent this down a bit, we put the cover back on, and you could take this cover here off and all of a sudden, bang, that pair disengages. Then we can switch our sides and get either that side or get that side. So if you've ever got a big shitstorm with these things, bit of advice, forget your damn bobbin winder. I mean, he's fixed this so it should work, but it was only just sometimes catching and sometimes not because it was hanging on by the last millimetre. And sometimes it wouldn't hang on by the last millimetre. So what's basically gone on is he's tried to bend it down a bit. But if you have troubles with it, I recommend that you use a bobbin winder on another machine, because this is a Janome. You can use other Janome bobbin winders. In fact, it's the same bobbin as a Wortham, and it's the same bobbin as the other Janome, and a lot of other machines. Globes will take the same bobbin. It's just your common standardised bobbin that the combo uses. In fact, I've got a bunch here. I actually bought some more for next to nothing. There they are there. That's your normal bobbin that they take. And yeah, long and short of it is that you're actually better to find the pair I'm talking about, and you'll see it goes into 2 different notches, and you'll see it has a little spring that goes down. Tie that out of the way with something. Anything. Maybe even wrap a bit of duct tape to thicken the bit that touches it, or just get that little piece and tie it out of the way with a paper clip, and you will lose a bobbin winder, but then at least you'll be able to switch from one side to the other. So if you've got real troubles with engaging between different sides, I suggest you take this side cover off here, which has a little screw just underneath this thing. You'll just see it's just in there, right there. And it's probably something to do with this. So, long and short of it all is that they also, you'll know with your chalkboard time, with your normal sewing machine, this might be a serger / overlocker sewing machine combo, but let's get to the board here. When you look at a needle, and your standard needle's like bump, bump, and you got your little hole down there. And when you look at it from above, it should look sort of like that. Well, it's actually going to be a bit more like probably like that, more so. And that's your standard needle. Now your overlocker needle will be perfectly circular. So this person's needed a new needle for their overlocker for whatever reason. They've gone in and they've bought an overlocker needle, which is perfectly circular, except there's one trouble. The overlocker / serger on this thing takes a normal flat-backed sewing machine needle. So the sewing machine side takes a standard flat-backed sewing machine needle, and so does the overlocker side. And this person's gone in and bought a perfectly round overlocker needle, which I realised when I took it out, and he said, you know what, it's the wrong damn needle. Then they've adjusted the height. Now it doesn't matter a shit with, it might not with sewing machines, I'm not saying it doesn't matter a shit with sewing machines, but I'll put it like this, it bloody well matters when you're dealing with a serger, because you have your little, bugger it, hand. Oh, doink, there we go. That little do there, that little thing there, see the little top spiky bit? That top spiky bit has to pull back a thread, and underneath that you might be able to see there's a little hole, just that little white dot underneath it. There's a thread that goes through there. Now this is like a zigzag, not on the horizontal as in, you know, boom 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 boom, but this is a zigzag on the vertical, boom 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 boom. That's sort of how they work. And as a result, the height of your needle is vitally important. Now, it's all to do with the setting that's on this shaft here. And the long and short of it is you once again take this cover off with the little thing there, and you'll find something that comes from your needle shaft that'll adjust your needle height. You adjusted the needle height, you bent the little mechanism for this, you tighten the belt, we flicked a few dead moths out and put a whole stack of oil in, and she fucking works. What more could you want? I bought this for $5. The low price amongst collectors, not amongst someone who's trying to grind a buck, but the basic bottom price that a collector will pay, not the rip-off price, but the basic bottom price, is $380 Australian dollars, and I got it for $5. And in the day, $8,000 to $10,000. Yeah. So I've done pretty well with all that. So then we went and proceeded to put through a bit of fabric to test the knife, and it cut as clean as clean. Now that's the difference between a bad knife and a good knife. I said, how do we know if the knives are stuck? And he said, oh well, let's put a bit of fabric through. So I started a bit of fabric in, started winding the back here, which by that time had stopped slipping and bullshitting around, and you know, it started to, you know, unseize and start moving fairly all rightish. I'll give it a good flaming flogging on Wednesday to really get everything moving. And he put a bit through and it cut it as clean as clean. And he said, see, you reckon there's a nice crisp cut? And I said, there's, you know, perfect. And he said, if it's fluffy, your knife is blunt. You can actually take a knife off and sharpen it on a grindstone, which would be one of these things. That's for sharpening, like butcher's knives. You can rub the knife of the, you know, the blade in the serger / overlocker on that to sharpen it. And that's one way. But you know, it cut absolutely beautifully, and he said, well, it's not an issue, you got a fantastic knife in it, the knife's fine. And he said, if it starts cutting fluffy, that's when it needs to be sharpened. Anyway, onto this shitstorm. This is the one with the air pressure foot. He tells me that, I've got a big gangle of shit here as you can see, your little pipey coming out the end there, you know, they tend to get cracks in it. Now, everybody's got this tendency to wind them as tight as this has been wound at some point, and even this Janome one, well, that's not so tight, but everyone's got a tendency, and you've probably seen, I've seen the power tools at work, they do the same thing. They wind the cord as tight as hell around it, and then they end up breaking the damn cable on it. And then you've got to put another plug on or shorten the damn lead or something. Well, they tend to do the same thing with these little air pressure feet. And, what do you know? You can see in there, little black plastic ball. Hang on, I'll turn off my other headlamp. Might wind the other headlamp with supply ball. The black plastic ball, that's a black plastic ball in there. That's your little air ball, and once you wind this too tight, you'll kink it eventually and you'll get a hole in it, and then you have troubles. Easy fix, you can just put duct tape on, no big deal. But, you know, that seems to be a lot of people's problems. Now, they wanted to be arseholes, didn't they? So, I didn't have this bit, he got me this bit and that bit as well. And, there's one bobbin in there. And another 4. So I've got 5 bobbins from him, as well as the foot and the screw. And also got a foot and a screw for the sewing machine side of that. I just seem to be buying machines that are missing bits, and I don't like butchering off one machine to get another machine rolling. So I just bought 2 feet and 2 screws to hold the feet for both the Singer and the Janome Combi. But these smart asses decided it would be a good idea to, instead of make this vertical, you press a foot holder, that bit that's moving up and down, instead of making that vertical, they decided to make it like a 5-degree angle to force you to buy a foot from Singer. Thank God he had some of these appropriate feet. And you can still see it mightn't look 100% online with the feed dogs, and that's because it's sort of half knot. And he actually grabbed it and he said, I think we can fix this. He just grabs the spanner and he tries to bend the bloody shaft around. Now, I don't know if it's been bent previously by someone, or that's another one of these intentional design things to try and force you to buy a foot just from Singer at an inflated price, because he knows for certain that they've deliberately made the shaft on a 5-degree angle or something to force you to buy a Singer foot. And I don't know if they've twisted the shaft as well, but he made a bit of an attempt to twist it back, which has been fairly good, but not 100%, but it shouldn't really matter. He reckons they're actually real pricks of machines. And when I opened it up, it's very complex, a lot of circlips, a lot of sort of, it's not really nuts and bolts, it's more circlips and crimps and rivets and all that sort of shit, it's not really, it's made in Taiwan, what do you expect? Now, as for the Wortham, instead of quite a smart way with this one, 2 loose belts. So, and you've got the ability to adjust. There's a black plate with a large screw in the back once you take the back cover off, and you can raise that. Now, if you raise that, that will tighten the belt on the bottom, but loosen the one on the top. And if you pull it down, it tightens the one on the top, loosens the one on the bottom. So instead of saying, we've got 2 slack belts and replace both belts, you know what he done? He put a smaller belt on the top and raised that piece to pull tight the belt on the bottom. And we only needed to replace 1 belt. And he had belts on hand. And Mamma Mia, she was fixed. It's a little bit hard. You got to, your little winder bit here, you've got to undo that, you've got to pull it out and pull the belt out through the hole that's come out of, feed the belt back, sit the belt on the inner side of that piece, not on this machine, sit the belt on the inner side of that piece, feed the bottom of the belt through, and then slot this back in place, and then try that belt. Didn't get it right the first time. The second time he did get it right. And then there's a screw you got to put to hold all that back in on this one. and adjusted it all, and she all worked. And he was spinning the end handle, and I could see the motor turning over in the bottom. He also adjusted the tension by moving the motor. And there was a cover I took off, which is much the same as this cover, where you've got like your inlet plug, and then there's a cover. Well, that, on this Wortham, there's a who knows what couple of blooming screws there. Well, it turns out those screws that I didn't know what for, that's to adjust the belt on the bottom by moving the motor one way, which tightens the belt. So he, adjusted that, plus adjusted the big one that just holds literally a double pulley bloomin', oh, you know what I'm talking about, the wheels that you put your belts on. It's like a wheel that holds the belt from the bottom and the belt from the top. He adjusted that one as well as the engine, and long and short of it is that one's a go as well. So that was a fairly productive 2 hours and 40 minutes in between a phone call he had from someone as well, and $120, which is about $80 or something like that. And we got 2 presser feet, 2 screws to hold the presser feet, 5 bobbins and 1 belt, and all 3 machines working. You could maybe even call it 4 machines, because it's 3 sewing machines and 1 overlocker in all 3 machines. So it was a good day, but would have been even better if I didn't take the wrong road. That I've been to this joint a number of times, and for some reason I just kept going on the road I was on instead of turning off on a road I should have. And I was literally 18 miles east of where I had to be 20 minutes before I was supposed to be there. So that went through a bit of extra fuel, and oh man, you know, total travel time was worked out to about bloody near 4 hours there and back. So by the time I got lost, and well, I suppose that included going to the $2 shop, you might call it the dollar store, and I might turn this chicken off before it burns the bloody bottom. And I'll show you what I got. Now, this town he's in, you've got these large chain, I won't call it dollar store. We used to call them $2 stores. That was back in the early thousands. Now it's like, you know, anything from $2 to $5. And most of them are chain operated, like, you know, it's like a franchise. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's heaps of them of the same kind. One of them they call the reject shop. There's stacks of them. I think they initially set out to sell rejects and then just started selling Chinese junk. But this store has quite a number of independent ones that have all the stuff that you will never find at the city ones. Because, you know, cheap buildings, cheap rents, very large premises, and they pack a lot of shit in, and that's where I got, I don't know where it's sitting now, 12-volt soldering iron from there, or from another one in that same town. They got camping gear, generators, oh, you name it, you know, little hand pump things to take engines out of cars, like the little engine crane thing. You flaming name it, they will have it. Tents, you name it. This country town, for some reason, has really large dollar stores. Now, I've seen places like Dollar Tree in America where people even find packaged meat in the dollar store in America, but we are sadly very restricted unless you go to this town, which has quite a number of independent ones which stock bloody everything, including these bobbins that I showed before, with thread on all 10 of them. Now, I can go buy 3 of these bobbins empty for $5, or you can get 10. They've got thread on the whole lot. Flash is too bright. $2.50. Yeah. And I sort of always wanted a decent brush for clean out sewing machines. Even the sewing machine place, this is the same brand that they have, but they don't stock them. And I go to this joint, same brand that they have at the place I always buy all this fabric from that you see on the table that's, you know, over there. and other places. And lo and behold, they don't sell this, but what do you know? These guys sell it. So that's a brush to allow you to flick out all your fluff and, well, dead moths if you're into that sort of thing. Like that Combi behind me had about 3 dead moths in the bottom of it. Hook and bar / eye, 28 pack, $2. My mum's got some of this that apparently comes from my sister's mother-in-law. She's got the white, and I thought, oh, I don't know how good a quality it is or how long it is, and well, I'll just get some while I'm looking at it. And there's, 2 half-metre, just over half a yard strips for $3. That's in the black, and so I'm going to get some of the white off me mum. And this I just about had a shit fit over. Now, Taylor's chalk. This is the damn thing I've been longing to get versus bloody sharpened friggin' blackboard chalk. Now, blackboard chalk, she goes, I don't know how well you can see that, but she goes blunt fairly quickly. And you got to sharpen and sharpen and sharpen. And it's fairly soft as well. You literally spend more time sharpening than you do drawing lines with it. I'm not joking. But consider Taylor's chalk. I can get 3 pieces that are probably about that size. And 3 pieces that size will cost me $7. But I got 2 bits for $2. So I bought about 5 packs of that. And the chances are that this chalk, you see how thin it is? That's proper Taylor's chalk. Chances are that that chalk is a fair bit firmer than that chalk, and it doesn't matter if this wears down because it is just thin in general. So yeah, I was very glad to find that. You guys here in Australia, tell me, would you find this in the reject shop? No one finds this shit in the reject shop. You don't find it in just about any $2 store, and yet they had like a dozen, so I grabbed like 5 of them because I'm not paying $7 for what is effectively, imagine what's under my thumb isn't there, that is what you would get for $7, and I'm not paying that. I'm paying, yeah, $2 if they've got it, and they never ever 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 have it, but these stores do. So anyway, you can see I got a whole bunch in there. And I got some batteries and some plastic forks and even some little sort of semi-disposable wooden knives as well, like butter knives. So anyway, had a fairly good day, and these should fit the Janome Combi, the other Janome, and the Wortham that are, well, all behind me or next to me. And, yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll find out how good some of this thread is. I bet you she's fairly flaming rough stuff. But, yeah.